Yeah, hi, I'm Blue from Incognito, and over here to do a concert at the Paradiso.
Hey, you just played Germany yesterday. It was a blast, you told me.
Yeah, about between 45 and 50,000 people there, and everybody looked like they were smiling, and everybody looked like they had their hands up in the air, so, which was great. And they were still singing. Still, a friend of mine, way after we had left the stage, and we were actually having food in the backstage area, so it's like it was a very emotional moment.
I can imagine. Is it still that important or that impressive to you after playing music for such a long time?
Yeah, because every time I step out on stage, I become the 5-year-old child that dared to dream the dream of being a musician one day, and I'm really excited and chose from that moment that they would play. So every time I step on a stage, I get that, oh man, and it's like, this is what I wanted to do all my life, and this is what I wanted to do from the beginning. But then when you actually see that many people in front of you, it becomes like a distorted reality that I cannot describe to anybody that hasn't experienced it. It's like they must have their own high to kind of equivalent.
You have such a good band and you're such a good musician yourself. Are you still nervous before you step onto a stage?
I shit myself. It's like, sometimes it could be because of the audience. Sometimes it's a new place. Sometimes it's because you're playing before your home audience. A London show gets me very nervous, and but most of the time it's because somebody that I know I haven't seen for a long time, a friend from an olden days, has come to see the show, or it's like somebody like my father, who I haven't seen for a while, will turn up at a show, and then that becomes a really emotional moment.
You have a new album out. I got it here in front of me. Life Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah, Life Stranger Than Fiction, because the title is because just when you think that you've actually got life sussed, and you're going through a period of evenness in your life, and then it throws twists at you. It's like things curveballs that you wouldn't even believe that you could hit.
Like what? Could you give me an example?
Some good, some bad. It's like for instance. My girlfriend had moved to London. We'd been going out with each other for 6 years, and suddenly, everything was going great. And then out of the blue, she had cancer. It's just like, and we've had to deal with that, and she's had to cope with that, and her strength of how she copes with that, and how she's been trying to heal herself, and it's like what she's done for herself. It's been like, just a journey which I never thought I would see, because you don't think it's going to happen to you, and it happens to people every day. It's not unique to me, That's the thing, is because though it's happening to people, you cannot feel it until it happens around you. Then there is the triumphs of traveling to countries which I've never been to, and seeing audiences in Malaysia and in Bandung and the northern part of Indonesia, turning up and crying while you're playing your music. Students, 5,000 students queuing up outside, and only 3 can get in. Leaving 2,000 people just waiting to hear the music from outside of the building, and not leaving. Trying to just trying to see what they can hear from outside of a concert hall. It's just very life. You travel to these places which you think maybe they somebody's heard of our music here, but then it's like thousands of people have heard it. It's like the story, if you'd written it in a book, a fictional story, it's like wouldn't even live up to the real life. Therefore, life stranger than fiction.
So how does it affect you as a person when you experience such extremes like ups and downs you just told me?
I think it makes you who you are. The people
can also break you.
Yeah, but this is it. Fortunately enough, I've had enough love in my life and people around me, and the talent which I've been bestowed with, to have an enormous amount of friends and people to reach. I think people sometimes are broken when they feel frustrated that they're not heard, or they're not loved. So it's like then there is a lack of achievement, or a lack of of affection around them, then people like this do break. But this is not my story. My story, I cannot ever turn around. Even though I didn't meet my father till I was 15, my mother gave me so much love. She gave me enough love to compensate for, like, you know, for 20 or 30 lifetimes. You know, it's like not just my own. You know, so I cannot subscribe to those people that, you know, to that group of people that would break under certain situations. It certainly is the making of me. Watching somebody triumph that is close to me is like their victory becomes my victory.
Hey, I want to go back to the album. I heard the story that when you were already recording stuff for this album and you went to a D'Angelo show somewhere in London in the Brixton Academy, right? And it changed your perspective on music.
Yeah, I mean, every now and again something comes along that you think you've kind of like, you're going in the right direction, then something wakes you up to your own reality. It's not so much that I wanted to kind of go and make with the music of D'Angelo, or like the first time I saw Earth, Wind & Fire, you know, to go and make the music of Earth, Wind & Fire, but it certainly made me want to include horns in my band, you know, and when I finished with the D'Angelo concert, it certainly wanted to make me want to strip down my music, because it felt cluttered. You know, suddenly it felt cluttered, and I felt like, you know, there was a simplicity going on. I'd kind of like lost. It was like I had so much stuff going on that record, you know, and maybe some things are better that way, you know. So, but definitely this record, Life Stranger Than Fiction, the lyrics that I'd written definitely benefited from having a stripped down, restructured, rewritten songs.
You used a part of a book by Jack Kerouac, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jack Kerouac. At the age of 15, I left school and I'd read On the Road, and I went hitchhiking across Europe, you know, and it's like, and then I came back to Britain and I lived in squats, what you call squats. I don't know what you call them here, but basically, yeah, it's in a squatting lifestyle, and I kind of gypsied my way around, you know. It's like, so because the book affected me so much, I wanted the nomadic lifestyle, you know. It's like, and I thought that was going to be my lifestyle forever, but also I wanted to, but deep in my head I had this passion to have a family, and I realized that nomadic lifestyle was not to be inflicted on other human beings. If their choice was to do that, it would be their own time, you know. So I felt like but I was glad that I did it. And Kerouac and the writings of the beat poets of that time was very influential and was happening with me, and it also made me listen to more jazz music, and the whole thing was like discovering things through writers as well, you know. It's like there was an awareness that kind of grew within me, and a sense of wonder, a sense of journey making from reading these books that actually stayed with me forever, and it makes me the person that I am today. So to actually have Jack Kerouac himself, you know, his voice on the record, you know, and sharing the experience, well, you know, it's like, it was just like the most amazing feeling. I hope that he's up there somewhere and just saying, yeah, cool.
How did you get his voice?
We were signed to Verve, who released a series of Kerouac recordings, and I was one of the very few people within the Verve company that was really kind of, you know, it's like not just taking it home because we are on Verve and taking it and keeping it. I was actually like listening to it all the time, and whenever I was making tunes and stuff, sometimes I would put snippets of it in there and then take it out later, because not believing I would get the clearance, you know. Then finally, my girlfriend got in touch. She knew how I felt about it, and I had this piece of Kerouac's voice in there, and I said, wouldn't it be great if I could have just kept it and not replaced it, you know, because it's like I'm building the song around it now. It's become the song, you know. It's Kerouac's, it's the journey, you know. This is it. I've done it, you know. And she said, well, I'll get the clearance. I'm going to try and get the clearance for you. I said, it's going to be so hard because he's not around anymore, and I'm sure that there's an estate that just don't want his stuff touched. But we got in touch with the estate, and they were more than willing to let us use the sample, and I gave him 25% of the song.
I did a lot of interviews with a lot of bands, but you guys are the first who really travel the globe. I mean, you play everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were one of the first electric bands to play in Kazakhstan. We played in Turkey right from the very early days. We went to China and played. We played the first outdoor stand-up concert that anybody had played out from Europe. You know, it's like in the open air. And in China, in Beijing, we've been to all over Southeast Asia, you know, South America, and we still and the world is such a big place that we've only barely made a dent on it, because, you know, there's still so many places to go and visit and play. But that is what I want to do. Is I don't want to get old and say I wish I had. Basically, Incognito affords me the opportunity of doing while I'm alive.
What is there still stuff you like to do?
Lots, because, you know, the journey maker wants to kind of see more countries, more and be in touch with more cultures and take in more adventures. The painter wants to paint more, you know, and there's a painter in me. I'm an artist, you know, outside of music. I draw, and there is the father in me wants to see his children really happy and become a grandfather.
Music-wise?
Yeah. And music-wise, I wanted kind of having enough of an interesting life to keep writing fresh soundtracks, because life is a movie, and the day that the soundtrack stops is when the life stops. So basically, I want to live life to the full, and that way I know I can keep making music, because the music is merely a soundtrack to your life.
You've been playing music for a long time, I already told that. How did your perspective on making music change after the experiences you had while making music? Because, I mean, it's a rough business, right?
Yeah, I think your perspective changes in the sense that you learn to become a businessman. You know, you cannot be an idealistic person who lives in fairyland. You know, you have to be idealistic and creative, and yet have your feet firmly planted on the ground. And you have to know the planet you're working on, and you have to know the bastards that you're working on, and you have to know the good people. You know, and you must know when to be firm, and you must know when to also open up your heart and your soul to people. You know, and most of the time you can just do that. You can open up your soul, but you must know also when to just cut that side of it and just really deal with somebody in the manner that they, you know, that they need to be dealt with, so that business can work.
What actually made you decide to devote your life to music? Because, I mean, it is a huge step, obviously.
I mean, you don't choose music. Music chooses you. You know, it's like what makes the boy who goes on to become the leading car manufacturer, car designer in the world, become that. What makes the astronaut that ends up on the moon? It's just, I suppose it's the childhood dreams. You know, they just probably dreamt of flying, and then they'll end up on the moon. You know, it's like I dreamt of making music and just making people dance, because I saw other people do it on the beach in Mauritius when I was a kid, and I said that was for me. That's what I wanted. I wanted to. Then from that, you watch the ships go by on the horizon. You say, I wonder where that's going. And then somebody stands next to you on a beach and they go, there you go, to Italy. I say, I go, Italy. So you sit there, and an old man tells you a story of what Italy is, and this wonderful world of like artists and where they eat pasta, and then they take you this adventure, and where people sleep in the afternoon, but they love life to the full and they live it to the max. And even when they're poor, they really love life. And suddenly, you know, and these stories that I was told when I was a kid, you know, it's like, and then you travel there and you can't wait to go there and make the experience there. You know, it's like to go to London and where the places where there's snow falls onto the ground and you ain't even seen snow, so the concept of snow, you know. And then now as a man, I've been to these places and I have tasted the pasta and I have slept in the afternoon, you know. It's like in Italy, and thought what wonderful sense that makes. It's too hot not to, you know, and made the experience and understood why the people did the things they did, and kind of grew as a man.
You have a very good website. How important is internet for you?
It's very important, and once again, it's like the triumph of the human spirit here is at work, because we could not afford as a band to have a website like this. Our record company do not give us enough financial support or care or try to understand what this band's about. It is very, very important to have a website like this, which is active and it's creative and it's beautiful to look at, even, and it was done by a fan, Johan Ramastan, who actually set up this website himself, because he loved the music, and he's become a friend and somebody who's as important to my music as the drummer in my band or the keyboard player or the vocalist.